This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
My guest today is Rebecca Elizabeth Whitman. She's the best-selling author of 3 books on business mindset and the award-winning host of the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant podcast. She's also been rated the #1 life coach and Empowered Woman of the Year by the International Association of Top Professionals. I'm super excited to have her on the show today with us. And we're talking about a topic that has come up before here on the show, and that is resilience. We're going to talk about the important elements of resilience from Rebecca's perspective. She is going to share with us how a morning practice is such an important part of being resilient. She is going to talk about how reframing failure is very important in resilience. And then finally, we're going to talk about another concept that's come up again and again from experts that we've had on the show. Words carry weight. And along with that, we're going to get our action step for this week. So settle in, enjoy my interview with Rebecca Elizabeth Whitman.
I never thought I would be rated the #1 life coach because I didn't want to be a life coach. I moved to LA 22 years ago to become an actress. And that was my childhood dream. And that's what I was doing. And I had small parts on huge shows like Friends, CSI, and 24, but I never got that big break. So I found myself working at kids' acting schools. And I had a lot of free time to study the law of attraction with great spiritual teachers like Michael Beckwith, Abraham Hicks, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer. And I really got a great grasp of applying that to my finances. And what didn't go so well was my love life. And I kept picking the wrong type of person for me. And I ended up marrying one of them. And it was just a really painful, emotionally abusive relationship. And 3 years later, I filed for divorce. And as my divorce was happening, my dad was dying. He was in his early 90s. And both events culminated the same 72 hours. My dad's funeral was on a Wednesday. My divorce was finalized on a Friday of the same week.
Oh my goodness.
And I know. And in the last conversation with my dad, he asked me to write something. And I believe the universe speaks through people. And a few months later, I was sitting in my financial planner's office and he's like, I'm looking at your portfolio and you're a millionaire this year. And this is the year that you lost your dad in your marriage. So why don't you write a book and empower women and people to be more resilient? So I wrote this book in 2018. It's called How to Make a 6-Figure Income Working Part-Time. And in the book, I divide life into 7 pillars. And when you have all 7 pillars of life in alignment, you're resilient, you're balanced, beautiful, and abundant, and you can get through anything. And now I'm on the other side of that. I'm married to my soulmate. I know this is a fitness show. I'm in the best physical shape of my life. And it's really because I live into these 7 key areas, which I call my 7 pillars of abundance.
Awesome. Awesome. You mentioned resilience as such a huge theme in your work. Could you tell us a little bit about why you feel like resilience is so important in life and the world that we live in?
Yeah, resilience is so important because I think of life as the ocean and we can't really help what life does. Life's, we are going to get knocked down by waves. And resilience is how long do we stay down? Do we get knocked down by a wave and just drown in the ocean and stay depressed for 20 years? Or do we say, okay, I just got knocked down. What did I learn from it? And then just get back up, and we just keep getting back up. And I believe that resilience is how fast you bounce back when things don't work out for you. It's
Mm,
how fast you recover. So if you look at it as like this is a fitness show, right? That's why we work out, to break down our muscle fibers, to tear our muscles. So when the muscle fiber heals, we're stronger and we have more defined muscles. And I think of our soul that way. Like when we get knocked down by life and we come back and we're resilient, it's actually sculpting our soul to be the best version of ourselves.
mm, nice. I like the ocean analogy there. That's beautiful. That's awesome. What can we do then as far as resilience goes in order to um cultivate? I think it's one of those things that you work on before the challenge. It could, I would imagine, be very hard if you're in the challenge. It's like, okay, I got to develop resilience now to bounce back from this. So what can we do now to help us out for the next time that we experience one of those times that we're knocked down?
I'm a huge believer of having a morning practice. So,
Mm,
spirituality is my first pillar of abundance. And just having a morning practice that you do every day, no matter what, whether you're high, low, in between on, what's happening in your life. And I have done this daily abundance journal. I actually went to a 12-step meeting many years ago and I met a woman named Janet, and she said, this is how you write a God journal. And I took that journal format and I tweaked it. And I've been writing in this journal every single morning for decades. And it helps me learn from what I'm doing right and wrong. It helps me learn from other people. It helps me get into gratitude. And I'm actually going to give that as a gift to your listeners. And the other thing that helps me with resilience is to plan my day around my workout, no matter what
mm,
was happening with my dad's very slow and painful decline and my marriage unraveling. No matter what, I prioritize my workout. I prioritized, taking my supplements and drinking my water. And I really think with those first two pillars, when you're spiritually and physically fit, you can get through anything. It doesn't mean that it's always easy. It's not. But if you just keep showing up for yourself with your morning practice and in your workout, you can get through anything.
nice. Do you mind me asking if is there anything else in the morning routine? I love that you said you do it no matter what. In addition to the journal and the workout, is there other little
Yeah,
secrets?
there's physical things too. So I wake up, and this is in my link tree, which you can share with your guests, with your listeners. I do a liquid collagen, hyaluronic acid. You're supposed to take it on an empty stomach. And that is really important for my just joints and muscles and staying young. And then I do lemon water because that detoxes my internal organs, which accumulate toxins while I sleep. It helps with the detox process. Then I'll have tea or coffee. I go back and forth. Right now, I'm in giving up coffee phase. So I do tea. And then I just sit down and I have a little table that has spiritual literature. It has my journal. So I will journal. I'll do the abundance journal, which is my gift to your listeners. Then I'll read from a couple spiritual books. I have like daily readers where each day you get a different positive reading, a couple of paragraphs there. Then I look at my schedule for the day and kind of map out like what I want to achieve that day and what's going on that day. And if I have time, I don't always do it perfectly because sometimes I rush in the morning. I'll do a few minutes of guided meditation, and I really love the Insight Timer app. I'm actually on the Insight Timer app. I love that. And I just do a guided meditation for however many minutes I have left. And then I'm off to the gym. And I don't eat until after my workout. I'm not like a hardcore intermittent faster, but I just believe I work out better with an empty stomach. So that's my morning. And then I'm off and running with great podcasts like this one.
Awesome. Yeah, I like a empty stomach workout too. It's not something that
Yeah.
I talk about a lot, but when you said that, I'm like, absolutely. I've tried so many different things working out over the years. For me, it's consistent. It's not like, oh, when did I just eat? What did I have? Why am I not feeling quite the same? It's just this is the way I always feel and I'm ready to go. So cool. Thanks for
Yeah. Do
sharing
you
that
like
with us.
Work out in the morning too?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Very similar. As I was listening, I was like, there's when we talk about morning routines, and I'm sure you've noticed that successful people, when it comes to the morning routine, there's elements that are like
Yeah.
overlapping. There's very few things that are just like, oh wow, that's shocking. That it's there are very similar elements to it. Um, so what's the value? You said do it no matter what. Now imagine that there's days that it's easier to do and there's days that are more difficult to do. Um, for you, is it about almost like it's just such so habitual, you just I'm gonna fall into my morning routine? Or are there days where you have to put a little more determination behind it and maybe force yourself to do it a little more? I guess I'm curious on the tough days, how that morning routine shows up and how it benefits you.
I really have built it into my day when I'm at home. It's pretty much just what I do. It's tougher for me when I travel. And I love traveling because I'm with my husband or I'm with friends and they're like, come on, let's go to breakfast. Let's do this. Let's do that. So it feels like the momentum is pulling me out of my morning routine. So I'm like, no, no, I'll just go to breakfast or you go get coffee, do whatever
Mhm.
you want. I'm going to stay back for at least 15 minutes because that's how long I can do it in 15 minutes. And I'll meet you at the, restaurant, or I'll meet you at the coffee shop, or I'll see you at the pool. And I really prioritize it when I travel. I do it no matter what. And sometimes, because we're not perfect, I won't get to complete it first thing in the morning, and I'll just do it at lunch. So I'll just do it as soon as I can get a break, or I'll do part of it in the morning, part of it at lunch. Some people really aren't morning people, some of my students. So I say, you know what, if you do better with an evening routine and you want to write out the abundance journal and do some spiritual reading in the evening, then that works too. Or if you're an overachiever, like a lot of the people that probably listen to the show because they love fitness and being their best selves, you can have a morning and an evening routine and divide it
Nice.
up.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Good. How about when it comes to resilience in those times when you do get knocked down? And I'm not necessarily speaking to you specifically, although I appreciate that you've already shared a couple of those instances with us. How does resilience show up in those situations? I know, we kind of defined it as how quickly you bounce back when it
Mhm.
feels like you've been knocked down. Um, how does a resilient person respond in those moments?
I had to reframe failure. I am a
Mm.
recovering perfectionist. So if something didn't go my way or I didn't get what I wanted, I would just freak out. I was a nationally ranked junior tennis player. And I remember when I lost, literally, I would just lock myself in my room sometimes and cry for hours and hours and hours because I felt that if I failed, I was a failure. And I didn't understand that life is a game. None of us are getting out alive. And this is like a big classroom. So now I reframe failure to be either I get what I want and yay, I got what I want, or I get to learn something. So when I think of it as a learning opportunity, then I can go for bigger goals and dreams and not be so scared. It's like I want to play to win, not play to avoid failing.
Mm.
And life is just, it's a learning opportunity. And yes, it hurts. Like if you lose a beloved family member or friend or pet, or if you don't get something that you want, it is painful. I'm not going to kid you. I lost my chocolate lab suddenly last fall, and I've been grieving for months. And it's painful, but you know what, I'm thinking about getting another lab because it's like the joy and the love and the bliss that I have having a dog, it outweighs the pain and the grief. And that's just what life is. It's actually, you get to learn, and I got to learn a lot about what love is from that dog. So yeah, it's a learning opportunity.
Oh, I like it. You talked about being a recovering perfectionist, and my ears like perked up because so many of the people that we work with identify as perfectionists, and which I love because in the copy that I write there's always typos, and people email me and say, "Hey Nate, you got this wrong over here," and I'm like, "Oh, thank you, I'll fix it." Um, how do you recover? And that I'm sure that's probably a whole nother
Oh,
conversation. But any tips for how to work through that process?
yeah. So as a recovering perfectionist, I used to think that everything had to be like perfect or I wasn't going to play. Like I would not try a sport that I wasn't good at because I didn't want to look bad. So I think the first thing is not caring about looking stupid or bad and thinking that, what other people think of me is none of my business. It only matters what I think about me and what God thinks about me. And that's the first hurdle to cross when you are recovering from perfectionism. And then the other is I am a huge believer in your words carry a lot of value and weight.
Mhm.
And it's funny because we're on a health and fitness show, your wonderful show, and people are so particular about macros. And I got to get this many macros of protein and fat and only this many carbs, and they're reading ingredients and they're very deliberate about what they put into their mouth, but then they'll just let anything come out of their mouth. So I
Mm.
would like to give your listeners a challenge this week to be as deliberate with what comes out of your mouth and with what you put into your mouth. And there's certain words that I got to drop as a recovering perfectionist. And those words are would have, could have, and should have.
Okay.
Because when I'm using the words would have, could have, and should have, these are words that I use to beat myself up. And these are words to self-flagellate. And I don't want to do that anymore. So part of recovering is not using words that beat yourself up, and then stop beating yourself up. Talk to yourself in your own inner dialogue with a lot of love and compassion, the same way you would talk to a beloved child or pet or best friend. And when you catch yourself beating yourself up, pause and say, hey, wait, I'm being very mean to myself, and replace that with an affirmation. I'm a huge believer in affirmations. And one of my favorite affirmations for recovering from perfectionism is I am enough, I have enough, I am willing to set myself free.
Nice. I love the concept of catch
Mhm.
yourself doing it, and then shift to where you want to be. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I'm curious to know, and you mentioned a couple things that would help our listeners, but what's the best way for someone to connect with you, to follow your work and benefit from the resources that you have available?
Absolutely. I have a link tree that you can share with your listeners, and there's really fun things in there for your listeners. There's my abundance journal. I have a 777 challenge where you can do 7 pillars of abundance in 7 days for only $7. So it is less than a latte, and you can up level your life in the 7 areas of abundance. And I am also opening up my coaching on Tuesdays at noon Pacific, 2 Central, 3 Eastern for a women's circle where I offer coaching, accountability, and support. And that is totally free. And it's just a great chance for me to give back. And then also in my link tree, I opened up my schedule this week for 3 complimentary coaching calls, which are a $500 value. So for the first 3 listeners that snag those spots, they can get a complimentary coaching call. And you can also go to my website, RebeccaElizabethWhitman.com, to learn more about me. You can find me on Instagram and Clubhouse and Twitter at Rebecca E. Whitman, and now at Threads, because that's a whole thing, and Threads at Rebecca E. Whitman. And
Awesome.
more about all the stuff that I'm doing. I do a lot of like workshops, summits, retreats. A lot of the stuff I do is free. So definitely stay in touch with me.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And we'll have it in the show notes for listeners to check out, get access to all those resources. Rebecca Elizabeth Whitman, thank you so much for being here on the Begin Within Health Show.
You are so welcome, Nate. I'm so glad that we connected, and keep doing what you're doing and inspiring people to have the best health they can have, both in their mind, body, and spirit. I loved being on the show. Thank you so much.
I want to thank Rebecca once again for being here on the show. And of course, The link that she mentioned, the link tree, the link to all the other links that she talked about is in the show notes if you would like to take a look at those other resources and benefit from them. It is there for you. Please feel welcome to do so. Here are the big takeaways. Again, morning routine, how important it is. Do it no matter what. I want to encourage you to take a look at your routine just right now, just in your head. Do you have one? How important is it? How do you stick to it? Do you stick to it no matter what? Is it there on the good days and the bad days? Perhaps it could use some attention, right? Is that possible? And if so, if you're wondering, well, what should I do? What can I add? We got some great ideas today from Rebecca. And of course, it's yours, right? It's your routine. So it could be something that evolves over time to meet the needs that you have, but be intentional about what elements you place into it and start to notice some of those things that are commonly brought up when it comes to the morning routine. Some of them are journaling, reading, exercise, right? Those things are part of so many different individuals as they talk about their morning routine. Those elements are so often there. So perhaps that's a place to start to look at your routine. I love the idea, of course, of reframing failure, like we talked about, viewing failure as a learning opportunity and working on perfectionism. Sometimes, right, we can think of perfectionism almost in a good way, but I love the fact that Rebecca highlights that she's a recovering perfectionist. It's something to work on, something to address, and she gave us some nice steps to do so, including giving attention to words, giving attention to the words that are coming out of our mouths, especially when it comes to talking about ourselves, our achievements, our failures. The challenge that Rebecca gave to us as individuals who are concerned about what's going in our mouths, right? We talk about nutrition so often. We talk about it because we know how important it is. The challenge that she gave us was for the next week to pay attention to the words that are coming out. Pay attention to the words that are coming out, especially when we're talking about ourselves. Pay attention and catch yourself if the things that are coming out aren't things that are going to serve you in viewing failure as a learning opportunity or of actually moving forward to a healthier place. Are the words that we're saying, do they reflect a healthy view, a resilient view of ourselves and perhaps our failures, the things that we didn't do that we wish we would have? Those types of conversations are times to really listen in, catch ourselves, and then reframe what we are saying into a more resourceful, positive, compassionate place. That's the action step for the week, is to listen, and maybe make the listening part of the morning routine for the next day. How did I do? Or the evening routine at the end of the day. How did I do? When did I catch myself? What did I say? What were the topics I was discussing? And what would have been a healthier representation of my thoughts and feelings in those areas rather than what came out of my mouth? So words have power. Words carry weight. Respecting that and making that a focus of attention is our action step for the week. It was great to have Rebecca on the show. I'm so glad that she was here. And I want to thank you for being here. Of course, as always, thank you so much for being someone who is working on becoming a better version of yourself. Thank you for listening to the show, for rating and reviewing the show, for taking a screenshot of yourself listening to the show, posting it to your stories and tagging me. I appreciate it so much. If you haven't done so already, please do so. And please continue to take good care of yourself. I'll talk with you again soon on the Begin Within Health show.